Hi, what if most of your team members spoke a completely different language and there was no ready access to an interpreter? How would that manifest itself with respect to your customers? Strange question. Yet that is taking place right now in organizations, maybe even within your team, where maybe it's not the spoken language, but behaviorally, team members speak, act out a different language. They have different ways of understanding things, ways of negotiating through life, navigating through life. And so today, the issue that we want to discuss is how would different behaviors, how do we actually move towards customer centricity when people behave differently? Let's go ahead as we examine today's topic of top-down modeling of consumer customer-centric behavior. Oh, tongue-tied today. I am Trevor E.S. Smith, and I'm from the Success with People Academy, and I want to invite you to explore with me for the next, usually we try to get out of here within 30 minutes. So let's look at the context. Started to look at it already in terms of speaking to the whole issue of customer centricity. Why is it important? And how can you create a customer centric organization by understanding your customers? We're going to look at three pillars really. One of them is understanding your customers, empowering your employees, and top-down modeling of customer centricity. And then, of course, we want to look at how is this manifested? How do you know when it is, when an organization is customer-centric, and deeper exploration of issues related to customer centricity. And of course, at the end, we will leave you with some takeaways. But I want to invite you to have a conversation with me as to how discerning communication impacts customer centricity. All right, so let's go. So basically, we know that it's a highly competitive environment today, and building a customer-centric organization is even more critical than ever. So what are some of the hallmarks of a customer-centric organization? Well, that organization prioritizes the needs, the wants, and the preferences of its consumers. And by that, from that understanding, they place it at the center of all the decisions that they make and all of the standard operating procedures and so on. So it drives the inner workings of the organization. And what is critical right now, I'm being bombarded, for example, by with information from Google that's saying, "Hey, we're shifting to another platform, another, we're upgrading our customer analytics." And that's it. There's a whole industry around helping us to better understand our customers. Understanding customers and getting closer to customers makes a huge difference to the bottom line, as we will see. So, for example, there's a study by Deloitte that shows that customer-centric companies are 60% more profitable than companies that are not focused on the customer. So that's it. When you consider, we have all of this plethora of social media actions, etc. But the word of mouth, when somebody comes online or speaks to you directly and says, "Hey, I found a gem. This organization, this product, this service really works for me," makes a huge difference. And of course, the opposite is true, that one bad feedback can also drive away customers. So getting to the heart of customer centricity is very important. And so we want to look at three pillars of customer centricity. Of course, there are more, but our focus is on one, understanding your customers, two, empowering your employees, and modeling customer-centric behavior from the top. Let's go. So, why is this important? Why is customer centricity that important? Well, I just want to give you some statistics to, again, emphasize, reinforce the imperative of making this happen. So here's a study by Bain and Company that says if you increase customer retention by just 5%, you could increase your profitability by up to 95%. Yeah. So just retaining your customer 5% more, you could increase your profitability by 25 to 95%. There's another study by Temkin, the Temkin Group, that shows that companies with highly engaged employees have a 10% higher customer satisfaction rate. And that is why over years, people have been talking about employee engagement. Yeah? Watermark Consulting has a study that shows that leaders in the area of customer experience outperform the market, generating a total return that was 35 points higher than the S&P 500 index. So if you seek leadership in terms of customer centricity, you're going to perform better than the market. That's basically it. So these findings highlight the benefits of building a customer-centric organization. The impact will be seen at the bottom line in terms of their profitability, improve customer satisfaction and loyalty, and of course, employee engagement and retention and satisfaction. So let's look at the first pillar, customer centricity, by understanding your customers. Right? We're saying, again, reinforcing that we need to look at the needs, and the wants, and the preferences. A lot of us understand the dynamics going through to find out who is this customer. In some instances, you're encouraged to actually have a personal profile and name. We actually know them on a first name basis. This model of who your ideal customer is. And so one of the elements that I would suggest that we add to that is the preferred behavioral style, how this individual communicates, how this individual wants to receive information, how the person perceives things. That's it. And that comes from application of what we have developed as discerning communication model, which is built around the DISC framework: dominance, influence, steadiness, conscientiousness. It's the same Jung platform, but we have worked to bring greater clarity in terms of the discerning communication. So you have the direct, driven individual who will be quick, decisive, and if the product works, fine, they're in. You may not have to have a long discussion with them in terms of convincing them, right? So we also have the influence individuals who have a preference for influence, who, again, a lot of it might be related to also the interpersonal relationships that can be developed. That it's not just about product, it's all about the connection as well. The steadiness also wants patience, wants it to take some more time with them, wants to be able to explore, wants to evaluate other areas. And the conscientiousness, the individual who has a preference for that style, wants hard data, wants more information, wants concrete supporting evidence as to why your product is better, your service is better. So those are things that we need to understand and add into the mix, when we're talking about understanding our customers. And so that's why we advocate the use of our discerning communication model, so you can actually tailor, well, not only the product design or the features of your service, but also how you communicate with this individual or with this segment. What should your marketing look like if you're speaking to someone who is highly detail oriented, as against someone who wants bullet points, give me the bottom line quickly, as against someone who wants maybe to come in and get a demonstration or to try on if it's if you're selling physical products, etc. And then there's the individual who definitely wants to be engaged, who wants to have want to have some conversations and so want to connect, want to feel as if they're part of your family. Those are important distinctions as we look at customer centricity. So what about, how does this take place then if the employees are not involved in that process? And so the second pillar must be that we need to empower, we need to enable, we need to provide our employees with the capacity to identify different behavioral styles and to respond appropriately. And critically, it needs to take place inside as well. I know we go through customer service training and we understand that we need to have internal and external customers. That mantra is seemingly not being at the forefront as it should be, because whatever happens internally is going to eventually manifest itself externally. And so one of the things that we have to look at then, if we're going to have a customer-centric organization, we need to empower our employees. We need to help them to make decisions and to take ownership for the customer experience. I give you one insight related to empowering employees and taking this matter seriously. So there was a young man who was being mentored by us. And a part of the mentorship process, we actually placed him in the organization at the front desk. At the time we were actually relating to customers in a training institution. And so he functioned in the front desk. One conversation that we overheard, was him saying to a client, listen to me, I did my part. I did my part. I don't know why they could. They, have not sent you your transcript. Yes, I did my part. And I don't understand why they have not sent you your transcript. So no, we identified the individual as a C-style individual. Lot of details, holding people accountable, all of those are part of the thing. So I'm not here saying that someone who has a preference for the C-style is not a good fit to be in the front office, into client-facing engagements. That's a question, because I personally am not of the view that someone with a particular style can't do particular jobs. What is clear, though, is that we should have prepared the individual. We should have trained the individual to understand the concept of collective responsibility, the concept of being united in terms of our service. So the issue then is not to make it pass that this didn't happen, but the individual should have taken it up with their colleagues, not in the face of customers. So if we understand customer centricity then, in terms of the internal workings, in terms of empowering employees, one of the things that we need to be clear about is that in the incident that I mentioned, that individual should have followed up before. So here's a deadline. This is supposed to happen at this time. They did their part, they asked for it. Did they go and follow up to make sure that the deadline is going to be met? That's a sort of join up responsibility for the customer experience. That is where the difference lies, is that we're not silos where we are saying, okay, I did my part. You know, if they didn't do it, I am not taking any responsibility. That's not the idea. The idea there is that we need to get to a place where the employee sees others as an important part of our machinery, whatever we want to call it, that delivers wonderful, exceptional customer experience. And we are one cog that needs to function effectively, but we are also, in a sense, maybe the analogy is not the word, because how do I fix another part of the machine? But it's a unit, a team that works together, and we need to make sure that all members of the team are functioning, are delivering, and that there are no slip-ups. That's the key. So why is this important? What we're saying then is that when we're looking at the whole issue of empowering employees, we need to take their behavioral styles into consideration. That's the bottom line, is that different individuals come to the table with different perspectives. They function differently. They get information, receive information differently. They receive feedback differently. We need to therefore look at each individual and to see, are they a proper fit for the role that they have been assigned, and how do we get them to function effectively in the role that they have been assigned, critically, from their behavioral preference. We need to look at it then. If this is my behavioral style, how do I get best results from that style? That's it. And so customer centricity doesn't take place until we get to a place where we are empowering employees. And for me, part of empowering employees must be, one, an understanding of themselves, two, an understanding of their teammates, and three, the capacity to understand, to identify readily the behavioral style of customers and to respond appropriately. Understand self, understand our colleagues, understand customers, and how best to get results from customers, how to give the customer the experience that they desire, and to exceed that. So that's critical. All right. So we have looked at understanding customers, again, looking at their behavioral preferences, understanding and empowering our employees, where there's an understanding of self, understanding of their colleagues, and understanding how to identify and respond appropriately to customers. The next thing now, and this is a big one, is top down. This doesn't happen by chance. All the things that we have spoken about before does not happen by chance. It has to be driven from the top. And so when leaders, as it says here, consistently demonstrate customer-centric behavior, it's going to make a difference. It's going to impact the rest of the organization. Yeah? And so I would advocate that we need to find a way that leaders at all levels, but especially from the top, should be modeling the behaviors that would enable customer centricity. Yeah. This is how we make the difference, is that we model the behavior, we follow it up, we make sure that we put in place all the monitoring and the enabling mechanisms to make sure that the behavior that we desire is manifested. So here are three areas in which we can identify to say, yes, customer centricity is in play. One is that the leaders prioritize customer needs and preferences in their decision making. Yes, let me just double down on that. What happens is that in many instances, decisions are made for internal efficiency. It would be much easier for us if we didn't have to go this extra step, or it's going to cost us more if we add on this action. And so in those instances, what's happening is that we are focused on what's good for our organization in terms of efficiency, but not necessarily what is good for the customer. In other words, we're not putting the customer needs and preferences above considerations related to efficiency and cost reduction. Yeah? That's critical. The organizations who are prepared to modify their practices in order to enhance the customer experience are moving closer to being customer-centric. That's one. Second one is, how accessible is the leadership? To what extent are they listening to their internal customers, their employees? And to what extent do they have access, or do customers have access to them? Where does customer feedback end? Yeah. I'm going through an issue, with a telecom provider, and I'm just wondering, does anybody in the managerial leadership level have any sense of what I have been going through? Do they have access to the lines and lines and lines of WhatsApp communication that I have had? That's the question. To what extent do the top leaders have access to information from customers, whether it is internal or external customers? That's another question. And here, what about the metrics? Are there ways of monitoring feedback, response from customers that are acted upon quickly and efficiently? And what about incentives? We talk about that a little bit more, but there are incentives, whether actual formal reward structures or just a culture that sometimes moves the organization away from creating customer centricity. Yes. So that's another way to look at it. So what about obstacles now? So if this thing is so wonderful, why does more people do it? Well, in some instances, this whole question of customer service and dealing with customers, it's offloaded. It's like, let's deal with somebody. We find a customer service department and we find people who are customer facing and we delegate it to them. It's not a management thing. You can deal with that. That is one obstacle towards customer centricity, because if customer centricity is not an active consideration right up to the very top, the organization is not going to be able to manifest customer centricity. And of course, sometimes it's costly. It requires a lot of change in terms of our processes and systems, the whole mindset. We have to do a culture change. That's something that's there. Yeah. And so the other thing would be the incentive programs, that somehow or another we can be rewarding the wrong things. For example, with our customer service agents, one of the things, because you don't want to have long lines and people waiting too long, is speed. Speed is It's important. How quickly can you deal with a customer issue and terminate the call and move on to the next one? In which case, for some behavioral styles, for example, our S-style individuals, that might be a turn off because they don't want to be rushed. Do you want to go to a doctor who is, quickly having a conversation with you? Boop, boop, some tests. All right, go next month. We don't want that. I have seen doctors, who really do little prescribing, but sit and talk to the patient for a long time, and through that, the patient keeps coming back because that's one of the things that they want. We have to look at these things then as we strive to achieve customer centricity. All right. So some of the signs that the customer centricity is in place is internal customer experience. So when you place a premium on happy, engaged employees, and we have this common vision that people are working towards, that is a sign that customer centricity is in place. And then also, the employees are empowered because they can take decisions, because they are encouraged by leadership to make decisions that enhance the customer experience, right? And active development of initiatives that through training or through the capacity to identify and respond appropriately to different behavioral styles, those things are in place. And so that's how we know an organization is on the way towards being customer centric. So examples, Apple, we know that Steve Jobs was very, very important, very focused on pursuit of customer-centric innovation. And we see it. Anybody who has a cell phone now or a mobile device understands the impact. Disney also, Magic Kingdom, well, also it was a magical experience that drove them to that. And Howard Schultz also at Starbucks instilled this customer-centric model, mindset throughout the organization. So those are examples of the difference that can be made when customer centricity is driven from the top. That's the bottom line. So we're saying that incorporating the top-down model of customer centricity is going to make a difference. It's going to change the culture, and it's going to help you to prioritize the needs and the satisfaction of your customers, which of course then goes to the bottom line, right? But it involves not only understanding customers and understanding, empowering our employees, but it has to permeate the leadership structure. It has to be demonstrated by leaders across the board. And by, when those leaders set the example of what customer centricity means in practice, it's going to make a difference to the organization, and it's going to impact the bottom line. So what are some of the key takeaways from today? One is that the journey towards building a customer-centric organization begins with a deep understanding of your customers' needs, wants, and their preferences. And I'm suggesting to you that you should also incorporate in that behavioral diagnostics. Right? So by incorporating our discerning communication principles, it can impact how you tailor your communication, how you can even develop your products, what sort of conversations you can have with your customers. And critically, how do the team dynamics work internally? Because bad team dynamics eventually spill over into the outside, right? And impact our customers negatively. So tailoring how to give and receive instructions, how to give feedback, all of these factors matter if you're seeking to be customer-centric. The other thing would be to empower the staff, all your team members, to be able to read, I call it read people, which means really to pick up behavioral styles and to understand from their behavioral style how to relate better to others, how to communicate in a language, behavioral language that others understand, that what they are saying lands well. And so you have a lot less miscommunication, you have a lot less friction and conflict because people understand where you're coming from, because you're speaking to them in a behavioral language that is comfortable for them. That must be modeled from the top. Leaders must get involved in this process of developing customer centricity, internally and externally. You need to have a culture where people understand each other, where people behave in a manner that makes others feel comfortable. So the journey is a comfortable one. The working experience is a comfortable one. We talk about helping to create wonderful customer experience. Well, what about internal working experience? That also has to get messaging that is consistent, and the priority on healthy relationships internally and externally is clearly understood across the board. Right. So, action, I'm just suggesting to you that achieving customer centricity is a multifaceted operation, project, and it needs to have a holistic approach. So we need to understand customers, we need to empower employees, we need to model behavior from the top, and that would end up in our putting the customer first. And try it, I suspect we are all, because every organization has multiple levels of customer service training, and I'm suggesting to you that there are ways to enhance that set of activities to get better results. I'd like to have a conversation with you about how discerning communication can make a difference to your quest for customer centricity. Just send me an email, info@successwithpeople.org. Or why not just send me a WhatsApp message, 1-876-535-6677. So, as I said, we're happy to have a conversation. Underneath what I've shared with you is the fact that we deploy our discerning model of communication and leadership, which is basically a granular approach to using the popular DISC framework. And we actually include behavioral diagnostics from Extended DISC on the Revolutionary Things platform. And that's incorporated into a body of knowledge, a lot of content and a lot of experience, a lot of work with organizations in this area. We're also a SHRM recertification provider, which means that if you did training, you could get certificates that are internationally recognized. So let's have a conversation. Let's talk. No commitments, we just open, have an exchange, and then we can move on from there. Thank you for your time. Once again, I'm Trevor E.S. Smith. I'm with the Success with People Academy, and I can, in fact, make a difference to your customer service and your customer centricity as an organization. Send me an email, info@successwithpeople.org. Thank you.